How are you this morning? Yeah, I should really heavy traffic out there, but still I enjoy the sunny California weather. It's finally, maybe a project can say that tomorrow is raining and Thursday is raining, but still today, it's one of the good days to get the sun. Nowadays, we have a lot of rains, right? So yeah, I hope that you guys have really enjoy the sun in California. California weather. So I don't know. Nowadays it's kind of a climate change, and then a lot of things, weird things happen, and then we don't know what's gonna happen. But still, yeah, life is rolling. Whenever something happened here and there, but still, life is rolling, right? I hope that you guys take your situation willingly, whether it's pleasant or not, and remember that God is always with us, and He has plan for your life, right? Our lives. So on the way to school, I pray for people who are struggling in life and my families, and then still remember what's what the God's plan is for them. So I pray for them. So I don't know whether I don't know why you guys are going through, but still remember that God has plan for you, and He is always with you guys. Okay, today is the ninth class. We want to talk about making decision, right? So we have a lot of we have a lot of many situations to choose. Which one is good and which one is right, and which one is beneficial, and which one is kind of to avoid was disadvantage and harmful things are caused by our choice, right? And when administrators start work at school, and then still, he's gonna face a lot of situation that he made a choice. He needed to make a choice, right? And that's why to make this thing is a part of it's a really, really important was the executive activities. So Hubert Simon said so ability to make effective decision is what? The heart of executive activity. We consider how important by his word, right? And some people have really have analytical thought, and they analyze situation and think about a lot of different ways, and then try to make the right choice for their life and for the organization. And that is so whether they have ability or not, it should really it affect on organization, making decisions affect an organization. So it's making decisions is a general to administration job by Duncan's word, right? So whether you like or not, and then you don't want to take responsibility or not, and as an administrator, if you go to school, and then you have to make a decision. So always, and maybe there's a light things to the heavy things, like maybe you can start a new program for student, and then you gotta make a decision because you have kind of a position to decide, and then you gotta talk. You have a position. You are in a position to talk to your district, and think about, and when you reform the structural change, right? Maybe you could add something, and maybe you could build something outside, and then you gotta make a decision, right? And nowadays, and it's kind of a real phenomenon that I can see that when I drive around the school area, and then school has kind of a big shade area, kind of a covered roof. It's a shade, make a shade, and then they can install the solar panel and generate the electricity energies like that. And probably it looks simple, but still, whether you can, how much gonna be the cost and how long take and who's gonna get this stuff done, and we gotta decide. Sometimes and we have to reform the strategic school governance. How can we govern the schools, and who is coming in, who is in out like this, and sometimes administrator working with the teachers, and how can you empower teachers? Maybe some reward, and what kind of reward, and like this. And sometimes you gotta plan the annual budget. How much can raise from community, and how much you get the subsidize from the government like this. And sometimes it's not all structured things, but related to the policies. How can we develop the policy to provide effective education and achieve the goal of schools, right? And there's a lot of situation like that. And then the administrator should make a decision. And here is some models. How can we make a decision, and then theories out there. So we're gonna go over some theories, and then we're gonna have what kind of people we should pay attention to, and then what is the process to make a decision, and what about in the diversity setting, and then diverse setting, and how can we respond to like this. And first, let's go over the basic theories about making decisions. There is a normative models, and normative model is primarily is a very quantitative. Quantitative means that maybe you can think about quantities, not quality, right? And the models suggest how decision making should be conducted to be consistent with the rational behavior. The basic foundation is we gotta be reasonable, or we gotta be rational, right? That is that one. So the basic assumption is the decision maker recognize all possible alternatives and their corresponding consequences. Before you make a decision, before the administrators make a decision, and they not just only one way that they choose, and then you gotta think about a lot of alternative ways, that as many as they can. And then the administrator need to know their and what kind of consequence if I may take this one, right? And the administrator need to know what is a possible alternative, and then corresponding consequences. That is a rational process. And so normative models, and then remember the assumptions, right? And normative models can evaluate the consequence against some value system, right? What kind of value you have. And depends on your values, and we can we can think about how we're gonna choose, right? What kind of way that we can adopt. That's one of the merit. And normative model also can rank, ultimately select the best options. There's a lot of options, right? Alternatives out there, and then you kind of write down everything on the board and maybe papers, and then you could write down the consequences, the benefit, and this advantages and disadvantages, and then you could choose the best one. So there is kind of some way there how can you choose the best one, and here is Neil suggests that basic principles. First one, and then if you want to make a basic what's the best alternative, and then here's that you need to consider the transitivities. Transitivities are phenomena in which a person prefer A to B, B to C. But when in reality, she could also prefer A to C, right? Think about A over B and B over C, but ultimately A over C. That's a transitivity. So maybe you can calculate it, and there's alternatives. Alternatives, and then A, B, C, D, E, F, and then see which one is best, right? And you can see how the logical process goes, right? And what's the comparability? Comparability is a willingness to compare options. There's a lot of options there. I think so, option A is pretty good, but what about option B? And then determine the preferred outcome or lack of the preference, or which one is better. You got to consider the consequences. That's comparability. And another one is a dominance. So the alternative should always be selected, right? Which one is the best? Which one looks good, right? You got the dominant one is there is a dominant one. So administration should pick the dominant one. And dominance. And what about irrelevancy? Irrelevancy is a little different from the word and the situation in which two choices may yield the same outcome. And it's not relevant, right? It's a situation there. Maybe if I take this one and then outcome is here. Or if I take the other one and the outcome is the same outcome, and then which one I want to take? Outcome is same. What about the old process? And there's see that the irrelevance is see the outcomes and compare the outcomes, right? But maybe comparability is maybe one of that one that kind of you see the ones of and which one is you like. Even if there is the same outcome, and which one do you like to do that, right? Which one is easier for you, and which one is kind of willing to work with others, like this. And then what about the independence? Person's wishes for the particular outcome should not influence on his or her expectation about the outcome. There is independence. So maybe you experience, maybe administration experience and knowledges and was an expertise, maybe push it certain agenda alternative ways. One of the alternatives, and then influence on decision. That is not good. Maybe I don't know the decision making process, and maybe group decision is there. Maybe you have talked with representatives there, and teachers representative from teachers and community and student and district. Anyway, but still your experience towards the administrators' experience and knowledge and skills does influence on the outcome of the right? That is a really important thing. So if administrators want to make really best alternatives and used these principles. That's a new suggestion. That's the normative models, right? But there is a specific model is there and economic models, and then economic model is think about economy. Think about the economies. What is the economies? Try to invest something and try to get a best outcome, right? So how can you maximize the outcome? Produce best and amount of right? Amount and qualities. That is based on the economic principles, and then what is the maximizers? And what is the highest return when we invest? That's the basic principle of the economic models. So these models really idealized and need to take rational making decision process. It's not just to see the outcome. It's not a they don't use just intuition. Even though they use intuition, still they need explain and they need to see how can we generate the outcome, maximize the outcome, and what is the highest return. But this model doesn't count the psychological aspect. What about the people's emotion? Right? They don't count that part. And that's why sometimes just ignore their basic as a psychological aspect, and then they just pursue it and then think about it and what if you make a decision based on this model, and then how to relate to people, right? How relate to people, right? And that is economic models. So economic models and think about, and that's one of the process. What's the way that theory. One of the theories to make a decision, right? And another one is expected utility model. Expected utility model is one form of idealized was a behavior like economic models, and address normative application as well, but the best choice can maximize expected values of the decision. They think about value. It's not the maximizer, not the highest return. Little bit different way, right? Still, they think about the basic ideas, but still. So these expected utility model have assumed that the decision maker is capable of assessing probability for the state of the world. Okay, a decision maker knows what's going on in this world, and then analyze, and then choose which one is a better way. Like this, they have all capabilities, and then designating utility value for each consequence. Okay, which one is for good everybody, what is useful for everybody, and that is all, right? And then determine the expected utility value associated with each lottery corresponding each alternatives. There's a lot of alternatives there, and then calculate useful. And comparing the alternative based on the utilities. That's really based on the utilities. And so there is, so really focus on the utility. It's not what is it, like economic models is a little bit different, right? And then there is a four axioms in the world. They say that if you want to make effective best to make a decision in the world, decision making, and then first they said it was a cancellation. Cancellation is the elimination of any state of the world that, regardless of choice, yields the same outcome. Or property encompasses in other formal properties. So there is a lot of similar things, same outcome, and which one is not, and which one so cancel. And if the ways produce the same outcome, we can accommodate everything, right? You gotta cancel it out. Return until the final, right? And transitivity is a assignment of option value that does not depend on the value assigned to the other. And you gotta separate. And you gotta see that this is will not depend on the others. Kind of distinguish, right? That's a transitivity. And what about dominance? The option should be selected if it is better is one state of the world and at least as good as in the other states. There's a reason why you see the dominance, why this is a dominant among the other alternatives. Right? This looks better. And what about the invariance? Invariance and different, it is a different representative of same options to be the same outcome choice. And one of the criteria is to see that there's a lot of same options, and then but should be the same choices. But difference is there. And there is, when you use the expected utility model, and then they suggest the four principles, right? And then maybe they hope to choose which one, like the assumption right here, right? Assessing probabilities and value, what is the designating utility value, and what about the determine the expected utility value, which one is good, right? And then, comparing alternative based on their utilities. That is expected utility models. And there is a normative models, and then we already saw that an economic model, expected utility model. And there is another model, is a descriptive model. Descriptive model is shows how process actually occurred. It's not a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. It's okay, the process done and like this, and then accommodating cognitive limitation and ideographic influence inherent in making decision. So they see that the theory suggests that this is not just a one-time making the decision process. They see the whole things will continue as to the level of complexity decisions they address from the single attribute to multiple choices, and then we have a lot of things, but it's not just one. And so you're a little bit different, right? And so there is different models here, and then descriptive model. So kind of humbly acknowledge the limitation. We cannot do anything, and then our intention is there, and then kind of influence inherent our kind of a personality, our knowledge, experience, and everything, and then okay, so we're gonna see all this in continual process, right? And then there is administrative model, and making decision process is guided by the principle bounded in nationality. And so administrative model is kind of there is specific example is afflictive decision rules and emotive decision rules, and then afflictive decision rules and then acceptability heuristic and acceptability heuristic and what? And the central theme of which one is avoid blame. That is one of kind of rule when they use this model, especially I don't know blame, and then how can we do that, right? How can we do that? And example is a kind of a group thinking, and we talk and together, and then but sometimes I don't want to follow the group thinking, but still I don't want you to blame by the group members and just follow. That's group thinking, right? That is afflictive decision rules when you have on the administration models. And then what about emotive model is a complete theory, and then there is a emotive conditions such as anxiety, stress, and determine whether stress of a decision conflict facilitate or interferes with the decision making. That's true though. If you are very stressful and full of anxiety, and then we cannot follow the rational behavior, right? Thinking and behavior. That's why they kind of remember that one, and then so they say that, and also kind of love and intense stress produces defective coping patterns, and also the immediate levels that associate the analytic making decisions. That's true, right? So especially administrative models, and they thinking about afflictive decision rules and then emotive rules, and then they really know who is a human being, right? You can see that. I'm gonna play, so they just follow the decision process. So, and another, the descriptive model is a vigilant and reflective approach models, and then here is, and then they think that when support is very good and high, and many executives do not ignore the barriers and constraints, but they take a full account of them and get out of their way to obtain more information about them, right? There is a support, but it's less stressful, right? Less anxiety, because you already have a lot of support, and then they open the door to the explore what's good, what's not good, they do not ignore the barriers and constraints, the limitations, and get the full account of the explanation, and then they understand what is best for them. And then these models requires making this skill to ask and answer a variety of questions that can be conceptualized as a complex set of decision rules. They put heavy emphasis on eliciting and critically evaluating information feedback. And this model is kind of for this model there is support. If you don't have a support enough, and then you cannot use this model. And when administrator has already stressed because of there is no enough support, and then it's hard to do that. Maybe sometimes this amount of stress, maybe you can research a lot and then get the information and try to present, but without any support, think about it and how they can open to other area, and then they can see the benefits and other advantages, right? So this one is original one reflective, and there's a lot of support, but still administrators study a lot and get the information, study a lot, and then administrators answered their questions, right? That is a vigilant and reflective approaches. And another one is a prospective theory, and then how to make decisions. And here is a prospect theories include two steps in choice process. In the choice process, so framing, editing, and evaluation phase. Framing, editing phase, and evaluation phase. What is a framing phase? The framing phase is a phenomenon that the choice process is influenced by the manner in which the choice problem views relatively adopted negative or positive reference point. We gotta know that sometimes when you apply for the job in some company requires a reference. So when you apply, when you turn the application and references maybe your previous work and someone who really knows you very well, and then you can put down numbers and phone numbers, right? And that is framing, and then that is when you hear about, and then sometimes we have sometimes there is negative and positive something's there, so we gotta screen, and then when there's an evaluation process, the phase is there. So people are averse to risk in the positive or gain domain and risk-seeking in area rules. So they have some Kahneman and then Tversky, and then suggest that if you wanna make a better decision, and then you gotta think about this principle, right? And then certainty effect, the tendency to overweigh outcome considered certain, and to underweigh those considered merely probable. That is one of the impact there. And that's a kind of people's basic tendency though. And really positive, like nowadays, and then I don't know how many people see the phenomena, a phenomena critically, but it really seems like feeling good and good idea, and then what, and that gives them averse to risk, and then what, and then they have a different way. Take a different way. That's the certainty effect. And reflection effect is the people's tendency to demonstrate risk aversion in the positive domain, right? So there is people and then like a certainty factor here. So positive domain as compared to rules and gains determined by the reference point adopted by the decision maker. And they calculated which one is lose or which one is gain. Loss and gains. And so you gotta know the what is the framing is a really important roles, right? It's really important roles, and that is a reflection effect, and there is isolation. The isolation principle is what tendency to discount characteristic common to alternatives. Okay, and there's a lot of alternatives there, and then you gotta throw one by one, cancel one by one. That is isolation, he said. So discount characteristics and one by one, and focus on those to differentiate them and lead them to in constant preference. If the same option is presented in the other forms, think about. And then basically count the characteristic and then choose the best one. And that is the basic theories, and people we only talk about normative and descriptive and models, and normative economic models, and also expected utility model, and then there's a descriptive model is here is an administrative model, and then use basically it's not I introduced a little, so the making process is guided by the principle of boundary rationalities, and then there's a guideline is here, and rationality is here, and then there is applicative decision rules, effect, and emotive rules and effect, right? So, and another descriptive model is modular and reflective model, and when there is a support, enough support, what happened, right? Or executive, and then use that one, and then decision maker, and then so answer the variety of question can be conceptualized as a complex set of decision. But think about, it means that this models need enough support, right? And that's why executives and then explorers, and then they get out of the box and then see the other things and get information, A prospect is kind of, they use the prospect theory, and they use the framing and editing phase and evaluation phase, right? So framing phase is there, and there's there is how can they averse the risk, right? In the positive and gain domain, and kind of they to risk seeking in the area of lose, right? And how can we avoid the risk, and then how can we turn to the positive and gaining domain, to alternative, right? And gaining, that is the there is a basic principle suggested by Kahneman, and then Tversky, and there's principles there. And another is one is when you're making making decisions, and people use a heuristic, some kind of principle and mechanism, people use it, and then but still that could maybe gives you a lot of bias, and then it's good, maybe effective, and then not wrong, but sometimes behind the heuristic, there is kind of a draw, there is room to draw the bias. So here, the making this process is about relying on the limited number of heuristic principles, and which reduce the complex task of assessing probabilities and predicting value to simpler judgment operation. So we don't have enough so alternatives, and then what? And then we maybe which one is good, which one is not good, but sometimes we don't have information and we don't have any ability to analyze them, and we just rely on the heuristics, principles. Right? So you can just make it simple and try to choose the best one. So one of the heuristic is the availability. What is the availability? And then when you evaluate so when you evaluate the alternatives and the what, and or maybe you can say it's available and is available. It's really important things. Right? It's really important things when you decide. There is not available, you cannot choose it. But people think about past and recall such a situation and what's available, and then we can do it, and then they take it. It's very easy of your recall. And then past this time and it's okay, and available maybe this time is okay, and then just take it. We don't know the situation though, right? Past is past. And that is a retrievability, and then still almost same thing, and then how can you take it back? And think about it. And people really have that is maybe it's to retrieve, and then they think it's kind of influence on their the decision. What about illusionary correlation? So illusionary correlation is like there is a past, there is a correlation is there, but it's gonna be here. And this is a process here, maybe follow the logical process, but still that's not clear, right? So when you use availability, and then you gotta think about and based on what. Sometimes the correlation is not there. There's a past experience, it's a past experience, and maybe context is different, and people are different, and what, right? The dealing situation is different. That is one of availability is really good criteria to make this when we make when people make a decision, and then but still behind them based on our experience, and then kind of apply the current situation, kind of maybe expecting getting the same effect. Representativeness. It's like a sampling. So when you do research, and then we get the sampling, right? We don't know who they are, but it's a randomness. Choose a people, and then let them participate in your surveys and maybe your interviews, and then there's a representative. But we don't know. We don't know who they are exactly. Can they represent people, right? I know. When I research about second generation millennial Korean Americans, and then by limited boundary or greater LA area. And the people who live so Orange County and LA County around here, right? But when as a professors, who is my advisor, you can see the kind of sampling, it is truly represent your study. So maybe that's why I try to get I don't want to get the same people from the same churches. Sometimes one minimize two people, and I don't get the people one place, right? And then maybe when they are in the same group, and then once the group thinking is influence, and maybe they cannot represent, So representativeness is used in making intuitive prediction regarding outcomes. Oh, maybe last time we did this one, maybe experience by studies, and then there's we predicted the outcomes. But not all the time, right? That is so. We usually use that way, but still, how can we get the representativeness? That is representativeness is really important, right? And then anchoring and adjustment. So what is anchoring? Anchoring is kind of refers to a process in which people develop or estimate. And anchoring is you go anchor down, throw in there, and we can see, and then like a school budget, and then see that and how much it's gonna be. That is anchoring, right? Your rough estimate maybe based on the maybe past a couple of years, and then budget, and then last like 2-3 years, like because of the pandemic, and then as the inflation is really it's really going up, and then think about, and so okay, last 2-3 before the pandemic, and we have this one, and then try to make a budget based on the but we don't count even though there's an adjustment is there, and then like pandemic is here, and then we gotta adjust this one, right? And so that is maybe anchoring and adjustment is like one of them gives you wrong kind of idea when you make decisions, right? So we gotta really need to know that. And another thing is confirmation. Confirmation occurs in the process individual adapt to seek confirmatory data in the searching and collection and the assimilated information. Students will overlook this conforming evidence in the process. And we gotta know we have data is here, right? Data is here, and then try to make sure. But all the time, so in the process, individual adapt to seek a confirmatory, and then it's really right, and so our memory is really right. What about the assimilation of the information? All kind of things, right? And then that is our process. And then maybe data is here, and then what? We gotta do this one like this. We gotta take these alternatives. Sometimes confirmation is gives a bias, right? And hindsight, what about hindsight? The people's tendency just look back and past event and then, oh, something happened that you cannot do anything at the time. You cannot predict anything at the time, but times pass and then later on you look back and, oh, we can do this one. Yeah, kind of, yeah. We can do this one and like this, and then so we should get what is a correct predict outcome. So you at that time cannot do anything, but when you look back and we can do it like this, that's a hindsight. So it's really based on your experience, right? Already done, but it's too much, give them credit to the past, and then there is like a regret is there, and then even though we cannot do anything, but still we feel like we can do it, right? We can do something and correct like that. That's hindsight bias. So this is what's a heuristic mechanism that people usually easily take this heuristic, but the other side, this heuristic gives you bias, right? And maybe so always, even though you can use this heuristic, but think about the bias, the heuristic that brings some bias, right? Guess and kind of analyze that one. Here is Davis said that there's a common errors that administrators, administrative decision making. And Davis said that there is some way that they can make errors, common error. What is a presumed association? There's a presumed association is what? Overestimating the probability to event to be occur together. That is one of the common errors, and we don't know they believe that two events will occur together. What about insensitive to base rate? And then insensitive to base rate is ignoring the fact that the majority of student problems result from the behavior of a relatively small number of students. And that is just right. What I can say, that just ignoring the fact, right? And then when you see the student and when you see something happen, think about the really not desirable outcomes and problems there, but they ignoring that the problem is not from everybody, but from what? Some little number of students. But if you really overemphasize, and then that's why we have big problems, and then that's a common errors, right? And overestimated. And what about the insensitivity to sample size and generalizing appropriate or inappropriate from the small set as an example? So that is really important. So when you run the research paper like that, and then just think about how you can sample up, you can get the samples. At least when you, there is a criteria is there. Like if you work on a PhD, and then there is a basic sample size there. If you have the other little bit low in practical degree, doctoral degree, and then like my studies, does a PhD intercultural studies, and there's a sample size there. And then just a doctorate of doctor of the intercultural studies, a sample size there. It's a different though, right? PhD is right trained how to research, really focus on research and teaching. So like that, and but that's why they require more sample size, and they see the sampling. The sampling is represented by the populations they evaluate, right? So in sensitive, the sample size may be generalized, appropriated from the small set of examples. So, like when you finish your research and sample size is not enough, but you cannot publish in the major journals. Right, and they see where to get the samples and that focus on the one area, and they try to get the really they can represent the populations. One of the common errors, right? Like almost similar to the top, and insensitive to base rate or sample size, and almost the same though. But misconcept of the chance. Misconcept of chance is what? Overestimating statistical significance and underestimating the potential for randomness. So really emphasize on the statistic significance, and so inappropriately linking student achievement score to particular teaching style would be an example. Okay, there is a teaching style, and they try to emphasize with the statistic. Okay, this teaching style is really better than other teaching style, but we gotta use this one. But what is the sample size? What about demographic? What about the socioeconomic levels among the populations? I told you it depends on not just the theory. If you go to my school district is ABC, Artesia and Brookfield and Cerritos. And Cerritos is a typical suburban middle class kind of residential area. So a lot of population is there. The Asian population there. Who are the Asian? Chinese, Indians, Korean, who really emphasize education. But next, Artesia is not like a population like Cerritos. There's a lot of people, Latinos and other people. Not many, there are different philosophy of life, right? And they come to school, but not invest like China, like Asian community. And then if you say that, oh, this is teaching style really effective, and then this is a statistic, but population is different, right? And we cannot do that. That is one of the examples that I try to explain. And what is a regression to the mean? And then regression to the mean is not recognizing that extreme event tends to regress towards the mean, and swing achievement test. Just think about certain thing is really maybe special thing is and influenced the student achievement, right? And that one is so like he's trying to explain the regression to the mean, and then recognizing extreme event and some special event, not the part of the curriculum, but it influenced and tends to regress toward the mean, and swing the achievement test score tended to average out in the long run. And in the beginning, maybe right, but still there is. And what about the confirmation trap? Here is a confirmation trap is giving greater weight to evidence to confirm the one. Already existing belief, not giving giving due weight to control evidence. And that's a common mistake though, when you say that, right? And trial people really, this one is, we already talk about the confirmation, this one too, right? Confirmation trap, and we try to conform with what? Greater weight to evidence. That's our tendency though. But that is sometimes, even though that's why we gotta know that the other side is there is a lot of reasons there, even though it's not a lack of evidence, but still showing something, and then there's a lot of reasons there. But people always just evaluated and kind of survey, and then they read the material, and then just we are doing this, but sometimes based on their statistical and statistical kind of analysis, sometimes evidence, and about behind something is there, right? But they don't consider. That's why make some errors. So Davis kind of administrators kind of make easily to make some errors with so he explained these regions, right? And there is another errors, and heuristic method still is good, but still give us bias. And then Davis suggests, already observed that here is some common mistake in making decision process, right? And another thing is hinge side. We already talked about that one. And then what is overconfidence? Overconfidence still gives us a lot of errors, right? So overconfidence and then overestimating, infallibility of one's judgment. Maybe this one can occur when the administrator has exaggerate view of the impact of his decision or her decision, right? Really confident. What is the incrementalism? Incrementalism is selecting only option that differ minimally from the status quo, right? To choose one, and the focus on only one aspect of a problem to the detrimental of the other aspect. So only one problem and only pick one, and then see the other alternatives and focus on one thing, and then kind of try to attack the alternative, try to cancel the alternatives, right? And maybe this can keep administrator from the overcommitting, but it also preclude both decisive leadership. And that's a little bit dictated, but not always, but one thing, right? And then really think about one option. But anthropocentric attribution is attributed event to intentional behavior rather than by chance. That is some behavior, some happen outcomes were intentional, or attributed to intentional. That's anthropocentric attribution errors. What about information imbalance? Depends on too heavy on information quite early in decision-making process to make determinant of the later clarification, depending too heavily on the latest word without considering it in the life early, not the yearly kind of knowledge, right? And that is information imbalance, the kind of errors, and then wishful thinking, the ability to accurate predict the future event and circumstances, omitted by volatility of a school district is very difficult, right? And that one is ability, kind of how can you predict future event, circumstances? But we have wishful thinking influence our making decision, right? Just think about schools, literally volatility of the school district, and just think about how can you do that. It's really difficult, right? And what about opportunity risk aversion? And school leader tends to play safe. They don't want to take risk. Sometimes the risk provide opportunities. That's why they make kind of a mistake, error in making decisions. And what about opinion intransigency? Opinion intransigency is what? Changing a formed opinion can be difficult. And so there is very little volume of making decision required of a school principal during the working day, so it can make it hard to listen to decision already and resolved. That one is kind of one of the examples behind, and already making a decision already done, and it's hard to cancel it. And they don't have enough time to review, and they don't have, as a administrator doesn't have time to review, and then time to think about more, and then to get evaluate the agenda, more, and then there is no, because it's too tight. It's not sound, it's not good, situation that he is in, and then that's opinion into a transition, right? And what about susceptibility to simple argument, the tendency of a leader to be swayed by simple, easily understood argument is and easily understood argument is often consequences of volatility of the work environment. And sometimes, if you don't have any your own thinking and philosophy and goals, and then people will be swayed by the people's word and situation, and then make a big problem, right? People have different opinions, and it's hard to control like that. Yeah, there are the common errors that David observed. So just think about if you become a administrator and come to school, and then there's a lot of things to decide, and you have to choose one, and then how can you do that? And keep that in mind. The heuristic is really good for you, and then there could cause bias, and then there is a common error that already studied and observed, right? Maybe if you have some idea about that one, it's easy to not to say mistake, right? So how to make a decision process? How to process the making decision. right? And we have two books, and Gorton and Alston books, and there's a process of decision making, and the first step is there's need for decision. We already, and there's a situation in, we gotta know what kind of situation is, right? And then decision is there, the need is there, and then we gotta identify the situation though. What's going on, what's the agenda, and then what's the good, and then you gotta understand the whole situation first. Why the agenda is coming up, right? And then maybe there is a decision that there is we gotta decide this one, and then what about the other alternatives? First alternative and second alternative and other alternatives. And then assess the alternatives, right? Which one is best for the school? Which one is best for the teachers and students, like this. Assess the alternatives and select the best possible alternative. Which one is the best? There is no perfect one, but best for everybody. And then we gotta accept it, decision, make sure, and implement the decision to the area that we need to do, right? And then what happened? It's not all about it, and sometimes we don't evaluate it, and then sometimes there's, even though we think it's past, but we gotta evaluate. Maybe months later, 2 months later, semester later, and a year later, we gotta evaluate, and we gotta feedback and evaluate the decision. And then we can make more effective, right, our decision. That is the process that Gorton and Allison suggested, and then here is kind of a process. Razik and then Swanson suggest, and they said kind of strategic formation, planning, and how can we make decisions. And I like this one. And first of all, here is a kind of a strategy. Strategy is what? What is a strategy? Strategy is as an encompassing set of ideas and attitude that permeate an organization's behavior and guide the decision-making process, right? And always organization there, and then we can guide the decision-making process. And then first of all, can you see the umbrella, and how can we have a strategic planning, and then there is first part is umbrellas, and then how can we do that? And then there's a vision is what is the vision that we are dreaming for? So if you go to school, then it should be a vision, right? What is a vision? So vision is a mental image of the possible and desirable future state for the organization. What is a vision? And maybe when you go to some school, district school in the other area, and maybe our vision to be a blue ribbon school, blue ribbon school, and then they already acknowledged nationally, but your school is really kind of an average school, but a little bit lower than average. How can you get there and dreaming? And there is a mission is there. It's not the vision is kind, you are mentally dreaming, how can, but vision is what? Statement is a clear, concise expression of the purpose and function. How can you do that? What is the purpose and how can you do that? Right? How can you reach that one? not the whole paragraph, maybe one sentence and two sentences. One sentence, right? That's a mission statement. And then what is a belief statement and the formal expression of those fundamental principles that guide decision and decision activities. Okay, we believe like our values. And then we have to think about this one because not just what is the core values of your organization? It's a guide, right? It's not, you cannot do what is possible, everything that is possible, but sometimes it's harmful. So basically, organization has really different kind of value system. Like if you see the non-profit organization and try to contribute to a society, they don't produce the profit, but they kind of they got the fund from the profit organization and use the fund wisely, right? That's different though. So belief statement, and then how can you work together, cooperation and excellency, and what? Maybe integrity, and there's a belief. How can you do that, right? And what is a strategy? What is a strategic policy? What is a strategic? There is a policy you need, and then basic the guidance. Every organization has kind of sometimes manual, sometimes policy, and they have one, right? And based on that one, and they run the organizations and run, right? So maybe you need to basic idea about. And when I was in when I was working in non-profit organization, and there's everything's there. But I don't know whether it's strategic. Even though we don't have this one is a vision, mission, and belief, and strategic policy, and then there's no way. But a lot of organizations, they don't have that one. Small, kind of informal organization, they don't have that one. Maybe, okay, let's make organization to 4 or 5 people, and then we want to do together this one, and then let's do it like this, right? They don't organize. Sometimes that's why it's not effective, and then sometimes it's hard to work together. There's a lot of try and errors, and then because the situation is every time different, situation different every time, and you gotta adjust, and because there is no any guideline policies. And then what happened? That's a basic umbrella of the top part. And how can you you can bring it down to and practice and implement this one? There is an internal analysis and external analysis. That's the intermediate planning. And internal analysis and the present status and future prospect. Okay, what am I looking for? What is our situation now? And then there is was analysis by the economic and the organizational and purpose and physical and social, etc. And that is the internal kind of analysis. And then there is another one, is external analysis of kind of present and future prospect, social, demographic, and economic, political, and technological, and educational, and that's the input from the outside. And there is how to operate, right? And that is a intermediate kind of analysis, intermediate planning. So we need to plan that one before you start something. Guess possible things and as much, as many as you can, and then think about it. And then there is analysis. What is the internal, external gap is there, right? Gap analysis, and what about the critical issues? What is generated by this, and then what about the strategic objectives and how they contributing and how they goes, and then what about the action planning? And you can kind of planning and evaluate, right? That is another part of that we gotta know that another part, intermediate, planning. So it means that not just the vision, and a lot of organization is, some of them they don't have a clear that one, and some of them only use that one, and some of them is only that one, and they don't into the middle part. And what about last part? Handle, right? That's a tactic. Strategic is kind of you gotta give the direction, and tactic means that gives you specific actions. How can you do that, right? And specific actions, and then it's a completely terms. But tactical planning is the last part, and then we have all things, and then we plan how can run inside it, right? And then what about budgeting and resources what we have to execute, right? And then operational objectives and programs and procedures and projects. How can we do that? There is a tactical planning. And what are the performance of objectives and tasks? What about priority and schedules? Which one goes first? And what is the organizational responsibility and roles and delegations? What about job satisfaction and performance? What about individual morals and organization climate, cultures? And how can you evaluate? And collect the data and evaluate. That is the last part. And so you can see the whole process of when you tactical strategic formation, and then you can see that how can we plan and we think about what's the organization's basic direction of the organization and goal of the organization, and then you gotta know that how can we do that, right? So internal and external, right? Maybe if I have organization and then place it there, I put some visions and philosophy. I created what Love to Hope. It's a kind of a non-profit organization. It's really aimed to support indigenous the student. I mean, I don't know the word is a local, not here in other country, local student who have kind of ability to serve community and then the churches. So, but they are really poor and they cannot support their education by parents, and then we really intervene and support the students, and that's a basic direction. And then I have this part, and then this part is I already set up. How can we run? So how can we external? How can we reach out? And then how can we do that? And then I created 3 years ago. It's not that much, and then but still tactical. This part, and we have this part, and then especially for this part, and then I try to contact with missionaries, and I try to contact who has really have heart to raise the kind of leadership in the local context in terms of missions, and so I try to visit the immigrant churches and kind of making connection with the pastors and other people, right, who had leadership, and then try to looking. And what about the last part, action planning, and then tactical part? And how can you implement? Find someone, there is a certain process there, and then how can we choose the student, evaluate the candidate and choose student, and then we decided to support, right? And there is a kind of I get the kind of recommendation and the personal statement, and then was a personal pledge to finish the school, and then maybe high school and college, and parent pledge to support the kids, and then pass through the recommendation and other 3 recommendations, and there is they have to turn the financial situation and all things, and we want to see how much you can support them like this. So when we get the application, and I read and try to share it with the board members, and then we talk about it. But sometimes there is people that we support, like this time, and we try to get the 2 people from A schools, and then they said that maybe we can turn into 4 people, but you can choose 2 people. But I read all application, and I know 2 people. Whoever reads the application and then maybe same mind, right? Have the same mind, and but still I pray for them. People who really under-reserved families, and then it's really going through hardship, and environment is not that good, right? And then my heart cannot take away that one. So take off from the application, and then I was praying for, and keep praying and got ideas. How can we do that with these 2 people? And still one day I have this kind of something idea in my heart, and even though they're not ready, and even though it's hard situation, but why don't you give kind of another chance for their life? And I decided about how can we get the fund. Our fund is already kind of limited. And then I talked to my wife, can we save a little, and then support these kids? And my wife said it's okay, so we can maybe donate more to the organization, and then what? And I talk about situation with someone, and then he said, oh, I want to take someone. And so he's gonna support the student fully until he graduates, like this. And then little bit, I know my organization is just got started, and then little bit, not it's a formal school, not like a school and then profit organization. My organization, non-profit organization, is a religious non-profit organization. It's a little bit different, but still have similar kind of this strategic formation, because I learned. It's not exact same things, but I learned before. So just think about if you have these pictures in your mind as an administrator, and then it's easy to lead the the process of the decision making. So I hope that you guys have this picture in your mind, right? So today we talk about what is making decisions, and then we talk about the basic the theories, and then we talk about when you make a decision. A lot of people use the word heuristics, availability, representatives, right? Anchoring and adjusting, like this, confirmation, and like this, but still the heuristic can lead us to get bias, and then there's a common errors that maybe as an administrator can make, right, when they make decisions, and we talk about, after that we talk about how can we process to for the decision making, and then one is from the other book, and then one is the other book, and then what's a strategic planning formation that helps kind of guide us, give us basic idea. So if you have a basic things, and then maybe it's easy to see what you are doing based on your leadership style, right? So I hope that it helps you guys, and then give you some idea about when you have a certain situation, certain situations that you have to make a decision, right? And so maybe it's not only school setting, but you could use this principle in other situations. So it gives you some idea and insight. Okay, we have one more class, and I hope that you guys can kind of move on to the next step of your life. And okay, yeah. So I don't want to talk about the decision making in diversity, and then nowadays is a big diversity really issue, but maybe our book has introduced this one, the book, another book, two books there, and then Alston and his Gorton and Alston book. If you see the making decision chapter, and then there is how can you respond to the situations. All right, so you guys and have a great week, and see you next week. God bless you. Okay, bye.